Good morning, class. Today we're going to talk about how to write a correct cause and effect essay. An easy way to explain the phenomenon of causes and effect is with a simple rain. Imagine the rain as a big cause and how plants and flowers benefit from it, like a result or an effect. That is how causes and effect essays work. Let's go into explain this. First, what is exactly a cause and effect essay? Well, it's a very common type of a paper that identify patterns and display why the things turned out the way that they did. This is causes or reasons. And what happened as a result, this is effect. Maybe you ask yourself when we can use this kind of essays. This answer is very easy. You will use this kind of essays when you have determined a scenario in which one action or event causes certain effect. Then try to explain what happened and why. In order to explain better this topic, let's going to see the element or component of the kind of essays. First, we have to say that the element of a cause and effect essays are the same as every essay, but the content is different. First, we have the topic. This is the first element, and it should be very specific and important for you. So, how I choose a topic and get started with this paper? Try choosing a major event, a phenomenon of the society or nature that have big significance, like a historical event or an event of your own life. Then, as a second element, we have the thesis statement. These theses have to be very clear, whether you are discussing causes, effect, or both. You can introduce your main idea using terms as causes and effect, that is okay, and also it's recommendable to show your major point of the topic, maybe 2 or 3, in which you will separate on your body paragraph. Talking about the body paragraph, this is the third element, and it have 2 big components. That is the most important element, that is causes and effect. Causes is very simple. You have to ask yourself why this happened, and with the effect you have to ask what happened because of it, because of the causes. And depending on the topic, your body paragraph can follow a pattern of organization. We have 3 patterns of organization. First, sometimes you will have many causes that contribute to a single effect. That we call it multiply causes, one effect. Or you can have many effects, but just a single cause. This we call it one causes multiply effect. This is the second. And third, you can have even a domino effect. The domino effect is when you have an event that causes something. If this something or this situation leads to another event, so it's like a domino game. One follow to another one. And finally, last but not the least, we have the conclusion. The purpose of this conclusion is to reset the topic, recap your main point, and comment the significance of the information that you gave on your essay.
Hello, my name is Ricardo Cortez and I will tell you about how to develop this type of essay. To write a cause and effect essay, you will need to determine a scenario in which one action or event caused to effect to occur. Then explain what took place and why. This type of essay allows us to identify patterns and to explain what things happen and why these things that happened in the way that they did. Now, if you want to write a very good cause and effect essay, you should follow the next steps. Number 1, choose a very good topic. This topic could be a phenomenon in society or a major event in the history. Step number 2. Distinguish between causes and effects. For example, to identify the causes, you have to ask yourself, why did this happen? And to identify the effects, you should ask yourself, what happened because of this? Step number 3. Develop your thesis statement. Your thesis statement clearly whether what are we talking about, causes, effects, or both of them. Step number 4. Find and organize supporting details. Back up your thesis statement with a very good information, but this information have to be organized. And there are a lot of ways that you can choose to organize your information, but the most common are chronological, in which one details are arranged in the order in which the events occur. It could be also in order of importance, in which one details are arranged from the least to the most important, or vice versa. And also it could be categorical, in which one details are arranged by dividing the topic into parts or categories. Now, the fifth step is to use appropriate transition words. If you want to make sense in this essay, you have to find the correct transition words and phrases. Now I will give you some suggestions or tips on how to write this type of essay. Number one, focus on immediate and direct cause and effects. You have to limit yourself in causes and effects that are close in time and related. A second tip is to qualify or limit your statement about causes and effects unless there is a clear evidence that one event is related to another. Another tip is keep in mind the main goal of writing. Decide what is the purpose of your essay. It could be to inform or it could be to argue some other point of view. Another suggestion is to make the essay sound more powerful and persuasive with the help of supporting evidence. For example, you could bring some statistics, you can relate some vivid examples, tell jokes, or imagine that you are in contact with the audience, like you are performing in front of them. And a final tip or suggestion could be qualify or restrict the claims about reasons and outcomes. In this one, you have to qualify the arguments with phrases like it seems likely or the evidence may tell, unless a clear, time-tested, approved evidence is available in any source.
A cause and effect essay often appears to be structured as a process essay, and the structure can be similar. The difference is that a process essay explains how something works, and a cause and effect essay explains why something works. So the main difference is the process essay explains how, and the cause and effect essay explains why. So before you start writing a cause and effect essay, you must distinguish the cause and the effect. So causes are the reasons that something happened, and effects are the results. It's important to know what are the features of the cause and effect essays, and we have nine. Number one, a meaningful topic. The topic of your essay should be significant. There is no sense to discover the consequences of some event or look for an event that led to particular consequences, and this has no effect on your life or on life of other people. Research for the sake of research won't bring you a high score. Number two, number two is a strong thesis. This is one of the main characteristics of a good cause and effect essay. You should compose a strong and direct statement that will illustrate your view on the situation and list your main arguments. Looking your thesis, your reader should immediately understand what you will focus in the body of your essay. Number three is an attention given introduction. The introduction of your essay should be, should not only present subject of your analysis. Your introduction also attracts the attention of your audience and make them want to continue reading. Indicate the significance of your investigation and move on to your thesis statement in order to set the direction for your work. Number four, a detail board. This is also one of the most important characteristics of a decent cause and effect essay. So, whether you focus your analysis on the event or on its consequences, you should give through explanations rather than the vague ones. This will help your readers follow your logical chain and understand your message clearly. Number five, multiple causes and effects. Multiple causes can have one effect, or at least can have one cause. Besides, multiple causes can have multiple effects, and one event can produce a chain of consequences. Number six, clear purpose. A cause and effect essays can be expressive, but more often it's informative, persuasive, or both. Some cause and effect essays have more than one purpose. Number seven, logical organization. Chronological order must to least or least to most order. Number eight, detailed analysis. It's obliged to include in your cause and effect essay analysis grading like examples, facts, descriptions, comparison, statistics. The causal analysis may recognize or dispel readers' assumption. And the last one, and number nine, a memorable conclusion. It's the last paragraph of your paper. You should summarize everything you wrote previously and say your final words. In the memorable conclusion, indicate that it's important for your readers to know the interaction between cause and effects listed in your essay, and try to write the last sentence in such a way that it leaves a lasting impression on your readers and makes them think about what they've just read.
To continue, we will illustrate the process of writing a cause-effect essay with an original example, which is called Main Changes in the International System as a Result of African Decolonization. Now, decolonization as a topic for an essay is quite broad and complex, with multiple causes and multiple effects, so we need to narrow it down. For this, we can use the brainstorming technique and then a graphic organizer for cause and effect to better identify and classify our main ideas. After that, we can use an essay pattern to determine which causes and which effects we want to focus on in our essay. In this case, the pattern is one cause and multiple effects, because we have one phenomenon, which is decolonization, and we want to explore throughout our essay the different effects in the international system. So for the essay structure, we start with our introduction that has a hook sentence that is a quote from an African president that relates to the topic of decolonization, but is specifically about one of the effects. Then we have our topic sentence that defines the main term of our essay. After that, some extra information to indicate how important this topic is. And finally, the thesis statement that determines the content of the rest of our essay and reads as follows. Decolonization meant significant changes in the international system, mainly the composition of the UN, and new influence mechanisms in the context of the Cold War, most importantly, neocolonialism. So, for the body paragraphs, we already have three major points as shown in our thesis statement. So, we have to divide these major points into three different paragraphs that in this case are arranged from the least to the most important. So, our first body paragraph is the first of the effects, which is the changes in the composition of the UN. In this paragraph, we talk about the characteristics of these new member states that are different from their European counterparts. As a supporting detail, we mentioned that 17 new African states joined the organization in 1960, and also another important element that are the changes that were made to the organization, because these new member states represented the point of view and the interests of the non-Western world, pushing the United Nations towards resolutions
that related to the topic of continuing decolonization. For the second paragraph, we have this important superpower competition for influence in the African territories in the context of the Cold War. And then again, we have two different important elements, which are, first of all, how the United States and the Soviet Union both decided to use monetary aid, military interventions, and technical assistance to encourage governments in these new countries that were beneficial to their own interests. And the other element is how some countries decided to not take part of this conflict and created the non-aligned movement where they declared their neutrality. And then for our third body paragraph, we have the most important of the effects, which is neocolonialism. And to better show you how we wrote these paragraphs in the context of the cause-effect essay, I will read the first part of this last paragraph. As a result of the new independent nations and the world powers' desire to control them, neocolonialism was a new form of dominance. This process allowed the ex-colonizers to maintain former colonies in their sphere of influence without the burden of financial obligations. Finally, we have our conclusion where we summarize the main points of our essay, and we also emphasize the importance of the connections between cause and effect that we identified, even opening up the possibility of new essays related to this topic. So the first part of our conclusion says, undoubtedly, decolonization had a massive impact on the new African nations and the international system. The birth of so many new countries altered the composition of the United Nations and affected the interests of the superpowers during the Cold War. Finally, some of the other important elements in writing a cause-effect essay are the transition words that we use, because we need to emphasize these connections between cause and effect. And in this essay, we included as a result, one result, due to, etc. And also we need example and emphasis transition words to better highlight the connections between cause and effect. In this case, we used undoubtedly, indeed, for example, for instance, among others.
And finally, here we have our complete essay. If you want, pause the video and enjoy it. Thank you for your attention.